And action.
Hello, everyone. Just very like to introduce our very special guest here, Sudhir Tiwari. We're very excited about the workshop that Sudhir is going to be presenting upcoming in November. And just wanted to introduce the practice of pranayama by a few questions. So, Sudhir, because we'd like this workshop to appeal to our entire sort of student body, how would you describe the practice of pranayama to someone who is just in the beginning stages of their yoga practice, and how would it benefit them?
Sure. I mean, even before we talk about pranayama in particular, let's go back and look at the premise of all the applied practices from India. See, in India, the philosophy basically is not merely intellectual gymnastics. Philosophy is applied philosophy. And it has to answer one basic question. That how can a human being be happy? How can a human being be healthy? And health in that regard is merely not the absence of disease. Although absence of disease is the foundation of health. But health has the happiness component added to it. Absence of disease plus happiness. So every single philosophy has to answer that question. And yoga in particular has taken that to heart. Now, what is yoga? Yoga basically is the journey of the self, by the self, to the self. And in doing so, a human being has to be healthy from a physical and a psychological point of view. And that's where the practices entailed in the yogic culture come into play. Mind and body are the sides of the same coin, where asanas take care of the body. Pranayama is a practice that takes care of the mind. And hence its applicability to people from all walks of life, people who are starting yogic practices, people who are in the middle path of the yogic practice, or people who are advanced. Pranayama has its application because they say that the mind has more influence on the body than the body on the mind. And hence it's very important to keep the mind in check. Now, you cannot control the mind directly. If I ask you not to think of a monkey, what would you do? Think of a monkey. So what is connected to the mind? Breath is connected to the mind. So although mind cannot be controlled directly, it can be controlled through the breath. And that's where the pranayama practice is coming to play.
So whether somebody's beginning or advancing, that there's a stage of pranayama that's appropriate for them to practice?
Yes, pranayama is a progressive practice. And people who are starting out, can start with pranayamic practices because, again, experience is the key to any yogic practice. And by doing pranayamic practices, one obviously feels and experiences that peace of mind, and which is the foundation of health. Anyway.
Could you maybe describe a little bit about the particular approach of the KavailyaDham and the work that your center has been doing over the years?
Sure. See, as far as KavailyaDham is concerned, KavailyaDham doesn't have any of its own tradition. The reason being because tradition in yoga is described based on the principles laid out by Patanjali, laid out by Swatmaram Suri, who were the traditional yogis, following a particular kind of protocol, definition of the practice, technique of the practice, and outcome of the practice. Now, based on that protocol, practices were described. Now, KavailyaDham, what KavailyaDham's approach is, it's a meeting point for tradition and science, where the traditional protocol is followed and verified by means of modern science. So when it comes to the practice of asanas, we follow the definitions as laid out in the text. you follow the techniques, and then you verify the outcome. The same goes with pranayama. You follow the definition, you follow the technique, you experience the practice, and then verify the outcome by means of modern science. Because KavailyaDham has a scientific research department, philosophical research department, Ayurvedic and naturopathic center, and a yoga hospital. So we have a very rich foundation for all of these things to be verified.
Amazing. Hope to visit one day.
For sure, more than welcome.
And then just lastly, because you're speaking of Patanjali, and we do think of Patanjali as the father of, how we know yoga. So Patanjali was describing an eightfold path called Ashtanga Yoga. And in Ashtanga Yoga, Pranayama is the fourth of the limbs. So how would you describe its function in the context of the 8 limb practice?
Now, the way Patanjali describes yoga, and there are a lot of interpretations of it, it's described as a discipline. Now, as I had mentioned before, yoga is a journey towards self-discovery. And towards this journey of self-discovery, there are distractions. There could be behavioral distractions. There could be physical distractions. There could be psychological and mental distractions. Now, yogic practices are designed from a very basic point of view to ensure that these distractions don't stay. These distractions dissolve. So behavioral distractions, the way to eliminate or ensure that the behavioral distractions are dissolved, yamas and niyamas, was described by Patanjali. Now, if, for example, you're meditating, or you're trying to meditate, or you're doing a meditation technique, and if your body is aching, would you be able to meditate? If your back's hurting, would you be able to meditate? No. So in order to balance the body, in order to ensure that distraction does not exist, asanas were introduced. So the body was balanced. Now, if you're trying to do meditation practice, and in your mind you're thinking coffee, if you're trying to do meditation practice and you're thinking of something else, would you be able to meditate? No, because that's a distraction. So pranayamic practices were designed to ensure that the mind is not distracted. It's collected, and it's calmed down so it can follow the direction where meditational techniques can be usefully applied. So that's where pranayama fits in, and then the techniques of pranayama were described by Patanjali.
Very good. So for any of you that weren't able to attend our retreat this summer, please take the opportunity to experience this workshop with Sudhir. Certainly won't regret it. We're very much looking forward to this workshop. Thank you.